Every year the list of venues changes, but we certainly have a number of venue organisations that every year come back and they often run multiple venue sites across the city. So we have various resources that list those venues and list things like the capacity of the individual spaces, what technical support is available, does that venue have a media office, for example, how does the venue hire out the space, because all of that stuff changes venue to venue, and a venue might be a year-round theatre space that has multiple performance spaces within it and loads of infrastructure to support shows, but we've also had venues that have been swimming pools or hills or hot air balloons. We had a hot air balloon
Chicken coop. The world's largest bouncy castle one year was there. Everything can be a venue.
This year we had
a burnt out car.
We had a burnt out car. This year I remember we had an email from a performer who wanted to find a tree to perform in, and the tree was going to be her venue. So the advice we gave was around how to find a tree in the city and what kind of tree you're looking for, and here's how you deal with the licensing of putting on a show in a tree. So we get lots of interesting exchanges with artists. There's all kinds of things that have been fringe venues in the past. So it really does depend on the individual venue. So I guess finding a venue is one of the first steps that a company needs to think about if they're bringing work. We have various resources on our website to help with that. We also have, the team that certainly can give advice. One thing we can't do is recommend a specific venue. We're impartial in that way, but at the same time, if someone's looking for a circus venue in the centre of the town, we're not going to suggest a dance venue on the outskirts of the city. So we have loads of previous programs that people can use to research how venues curate the work that they host. There's also documents that have more technical information, so things like stage dimensions and what technical support is available. Is there a media office? Is there front of house? Is there a box office? And then it's essentially a case of a performer or a performing company putting together a short list of venues and then just getting in touch directly, and that's where we kind of step back, and the arrangement between the company and the venue is a direct one. Some venues will have application forms that you have to fill in with very loads of information packs and stuff on their site that details it all. Others will be a little more informal, and it's just a case of dropping an email or a phone call through. I think at the early stage it's about reaching out to a few different venues so you can get a sense of the different costs and the different kinds of deals out there, and it's only by speaking to multiple venues that you'll kind of, I guess, understand what a good deal is for you, because a good venue for some will be a bad venue for others, or at least an unsuitable venue for others. So it's getting a sense of that, getting a sense of what's out there, understanding what services you might want and what services are going to cost you extra, and going from there. And again, I just guess I'd reiterate that we're always there at every step of that process to advise, even though we're not directly involved in the agreement.
If you're used to on your home turf, particularly if you're coming like internationally and you're used to selling at maybe a 200-seater in your hometown, don't necessarily assume that that's going to be the thing to do when you get to Edinburgh. We always sort of say try and be really realistic about your capacity in terms of like how many other shows are out there, how known you are, like sort of in the fringe market. Yeah. It's just a really good one to think about to make sure you find the right space. And absolutely what Matt said, like do not just speak to one venue and get excited and take your first stop. Like most of the venues will go, have you spoken to other people? And they're very good at sort of batting people around to make sure they've done their research properly.
One of the things that's unique about the Fringe is its size, and the amount of competition for audiences is so significant that even if you are a known performer and you sell out runs in London, there's not 3,500 other shows all happening at the same time when you're putting on that show. So unless you have been to the Fringe before and you are confident that you can sell out a certain size room, as Alan says, it's better to be performing to a small room that's full every day than a big room that's half full every day. And also the bigger the room you go with, generally speaking, the more expensive it's going to be. So there's a budgeting point in there as well. Once you've essentially got an agreement with a venue, the next step would be formalizing that agreement. So yeah, it would be getting a contract from them, making sure everything in the contract is what's been agreed verbally or an email, and that all the details you want to be confirmed are listed in there in an appropriate way. And then yeah, it depends on the venue and what their process is, but you've locked in the contract, and at that point is when you would start to provide the details to us.
So as part of the application, you can state a preferred venue as preferred time, and then so we take on board that information, and we look at and we'll consider it alongside everything else that you've kind of presented to us. Because they're not purpose-built venues, they're in kind of peculiar spaces, and there's stuff that we know that you might not know about, sound bleed and what sort of work can work well in these, where you can do aerial work, stuff like that. So we'll then make a broader consideration as to whether that's suited to that space. We'll also work out whether that's suited to the time slot that you're proposing, and then we might come back with kind of a counter offer and continue to discuss that. There is a degree to which the programme needs to remain slightly fluid. If we're interested in the show, we'll be able to kind of give a kind of ballpark slot offer of what we're thinking, and then as the shows around it kind of solidify, we'll be then able to sort of kind of firm up that slot offer. And once you've accepted that, we'll then start the ball rolling towards all of the other steps.